Tonight, American politics has been rocked by a bombshell development. A federal indictment has landed on one of the most controversial figures of the past decade. Is this justice finally catching up, or is it political revenge dressed up as law? The question goes to the very heart of democracy. When the justice system moves against high-profile political players, is it protecting the rule of law, or is it being weaponized? Tonight, we break the story down step by step so you can understand what truly happened, why it matters, and where this could lead. Listen closely, because this moment is bigger than any headline. Former FBI Director James Comey, the man once at the center of Washington's most explosive investigations, has now been indicted by a federal grand jury. 2 counts have been filed, making false statements and obstruction of an official proceeding. Both charges stem from his sworn testimony before the Senate on September 30, 2020, testimony that prosecutors now argue was riddled with deliberate falsehoods. The indictment was filed in the Eastern District of Virginia and made public on September 25, 2025. This is not just a routine legal action. This is a political earthquake that could reshape the future of the Justice Department and American politics itself.
To understand how we got here, we need to rewind to 2020. During heated Senate hearings, James Comey was asked about his role in authorizing leaks to the press during the Trump administration. Prosecutors allege that his responses, given under oath, were misleading and potentially false. At the time, it was dismissed by many as political theater. But behind the scenes, those statements created a paper trail. And because federal law sets a 5-year statute of limitations for perjury and obstruction, September 2025 became the deadline. That deadline wasn't just a legal technicality, it was a ticking time bomb. And this week, it went off. But here's where the story becomes even more dramatic. The indictment wasn't brought forward by a long-established federal prosecutor. Instead, it came after a sudden change inside the Justice Department. Lindsay Halligan, a relatively new figure, was appointed as interim U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia just weeks ago. And within days of her arrival, this case was pushed forward to a grand jury. Her appointment, its timing, its speed, and the immediate shift in strategy has become a central focus. Was this simply the pursuit of justice by a fresh set of eyes? Or was it the result of political maneuvering designed to deliver a specific outcome?
Sources have revealed something even more striking. An internal DOJ memo from career prosecutors advised against pursuing the case, arguing that the evidence did not meet the threshold of probable cause. Yet despite those warnings, Halligan chose to move forward and present the matter to a grand jury. That decision, directly contradicting the assessment of her own staff, raises serious questions about motivation. When seasoned prosecutors say the evidence is weak but leadership overrides them, what does that tell us? Is this about law or about politics? The optics here could prove as consequential as the case itself. Overlaying all of this is the undeniable influence of political pressure. President Trump himself has been outspoken for months, demanding accountability for those he believes undermined his administration. His public statements, some blunt, others fiery, have made it clear that he views Comey and others as enemies of his presidency and of the people's will. Until you go after our enemies, you're not serious about justice, Trump has warned in speeches and posts. Such rhetoric, while galvanizing to his supporters, places enormous pressure on the Justice Department, and it blurs the line between prosecutorial independence and political loyalty. The question must be asked, are prosecutors making legal decisions, or are they responding to presidential demands?
Adding to the intrigue, Eric Siebert, the previous acting U.S. attorney in that same office, resigned suddenly earlier this month. Sources say he was under heavy pressure to move forward with politically sensitive cases, but refused, citing weak evidence. His departure cleared the way for Lindsay Halligan's arrival and the swift escalation of the Comey indictment. This isn't just about one man stepping aside. It's about an office, one of the most powerful in the federal system, being reshaped to fit a new agenda. And for the Justice Department's credibility, that's a dangerous precedent. Make no mistake, proving these charges in court will not be easy. To convict on making false statements, prosecutors must prove that Comey knowingly and willfully lied, not that he was mistaken or misremembered. For obstruction, they must show intent to impede an official proceeding. That's a high bar. History tells us grand juries indict easily. The old saying goes, a prosecutor can indict a ham sandwich, but securing a conviction in a courtroom before a judge and jury is another story entirely. This case is not a slam dunk. It's the beginning of a long, complex legal battle.
And this is where the political consequences become inescapable. If the case proceeds, Trump supporters will celebrate it as long overdue accountability. If the case collapses, critics will call it proof that justice has been weaponized. Either way, the narrative will dominate the airwaves. Justice versus revenge. Accountability versus politicization. In the court of public opinion, those narratives matter as much, if not more, than the court's verdict. America is at risk of turning its justice system into a scoreboard, where legal outcomes are interpreted only through partisan lenses. That is a dangerous path. With the 2026 midterms looming, this indictment couldn't have come at a more explosive time. On one hand, it energizes Trump's base, who see Comey as a symbol of the deep state. On the other, it unsettles independent voters, who may see this as overreach or political vengeance. The truth is, both sides will weaponize the story to rally their supporters. And in an election cycle where just a few percentage points can swing entire states, this case could alter the political map. What was once a legal technicality has now become a political earthquake.
So how will Comey's defense team respond? Expect 3 moves. First, to challenge the statute of limitations, arguing that the deadline has passed or the clock was misapplied. Second, to claim lack of intent, insisting any false statements were errors, not lies. Third, to lean heavily on prior Inspector General reports and official documents that they'll argue clear Comey of wrongdoing. And if they can show irregularities in how this indictment was brought, such as political pressure or rushed decision-making, they'll file motions to dismiss before the trial even begins. This is going to be fought tooth and nail. Meanwhile, attention is also shifting to New York Attorney General Letitia James. Reports had suggested that a federal indictment against her was imminent, tied to alleged mortgage fraud. But as of today, no such indictment has been formally filed. Instead, what we know is that the investigation, previously believed to be dormant, has been revived under new leadership. Once again, the theme repeats. Personnel changes in federal offices are breathing new life into politically charged cases. And while Comey has now been officially indicted, Letitia James is still under investigation, a crucial distinction that must not be blurred.
Put all of this together and a pattern becomes clear. Replace prosecutors, push forward cases, and use the timing of deadlines to maximum political effect. For democracy, this is a red flag. Federal prosecutors are supposed to be insulated from politics, making decisions based on evidence alone. But when leadership changes are followed almost immediately by explosive indictments, it raises uncomfortable questions. Are these offices serving the rule of law, or are they serving the will of those in power? That question is now front and center. So what comes next? The grand jury has spoken, but the courtroom battle is just beginning. Arraignment dates are expected in early October, with some outlets suggesting October 9th as the likely date. Once that process begins, discovery motions, evidentiary battles, and media leaks will dominate the news cycle. Every step will be scrutinized, dissected, and spun by both sides. For months, this case will be a fixture on every political talk show, every news desk, and every social media feed. Prepare for a storm. But here's the core question. If the evidence is truly strong, then why was there hesitation from career prosecutors? And if the evidence is weak, why was the indictment pursued anyway? Who should be held accountable? The prosecutors who said no, or the political leadership who said yes? These aren't abstract debates. They go to the very heart of how justice is administered in America. And they demand an answer not just from the courts, but from us, the people. Because in the end, this isn't just about James Comey. It's about the American people's faith in their justice system. If the public comes to believe that prosecutions are political, trust will collapse. But if the system demonstrates independence and proves its case with solid evidence, it could restore credibility. Either way, the scars will be deep. And once trust is broken, it is painfully hard to rebuild. This case will leave a mark on America's institutions, no matter the outcome.
So let's be clear. Courts exist to deliver justice, not to produce headlines. But in this case, the headlines are already shaping the battlefield. James Comey now stands indicted, the Justice Department stands divided, and the nation stands at a crossroads. Democracy is fragile. It depends not just on laws, but on the integrity of the people who enforce them. The question now is simple but profound. Are we watching the pursuit of justice or the politics of revenge? Think carefully, because how we answer will shape the future of America.